Hey everyone! Welcome back to Strange Mind 6. Today we are going to be getting into chapter 13 of Long Live the Pumpkin Queen by Shea Earnshaw. Now, we're going to get right into it, so grab your snacks, grab your drinks, sit back, and relax. And let's get to it, shall we? Together, the three of us leave the house, a rag doll and the governors of Dreamtown, who might be my parents. Albert and Greta were still wearing their long robes and silky dark blue pajamas, common attire in Dreamtown, and the sky is the same moody twilight hue as when I first arrived, the moon full and lazy and low. "Does the sun ever rise here?" I ask. "My goodness, no," Albert replies, touching the gray stubble on his chin, the 5 o'clock shadow that I suspect is always there. "It would be too difficult to fall asleep if the sun was up. This is the perfect quality of light for rest." He waves a hand toward the skyline, at the faint dotting of stars just beginning to poke out, giving the appearance of fabric with tiny needle holes allowing the light to shimmer through. And he's right. It does cast a dreamy, drowsy light over everything, always beckoning you into sleep, like it would take no effort at all. A person could drift off while still standing upright. "Why is it that I can understand you both, but everyone else talks in circles?" I ask. Albert laughs. "You used to talk in riddles, too, when you were younger. It's good practice." "For what?" "Our role in Dreamtown is to help children, and even adults sometimes fall asleep. We whisper bedtime stories and poems into their ears, easing them into slumber." Albert looks over at me, cheeks rosy along the seams of his fabric skin, gray speckled hair cut short, a man I can almost recall reading books to me at night, letting me turn the pages with my small ragdoll hands. Or maybe I just want to believe it. Imagine a life where he could have been my father, with his gentle eyes and peppermint candies in his pocket, my favorite mint tea before bed, and his hair that smelled a little of tobacco. A father who loved me, taught me about dreams and riddles, and didn't lock me in a basement with a cruel, upturned snarl. You get used to it after a while, talking in riddles, understanding one another. It becomes our common language here." Albert smiles at Greta. A shared knowing between them, a hint of joy that I suspect has been lost all these years, that their only daughter has been missing. But again, I push the thought down, still struggling to make sense of it all, that I could be from this place, that I am nothing like what I used to think I was. "We can still talk in the old flat language when we have to," he goes on. "When we heard there was someone in town asking questions using the flat language, we had no idea it was you." He wipes quickly at his eyes so I won't see the tears. We walk past a row of tiny cottages, smoke spilling from the chimneys, the scent of lavender and sage cookies drifting on the evening air. I breathe it in, letting the sweet scent settle into my soft, stitched bones, letting it remind me of the girl I might have been. How this place could have made me something different, a girl who baked sweets by the evening light instead of stirring poisons to escape a man who kept me prisoner. I feel a heaviness in my chest, the burden of too many memories that don't quite fit. But before the sting of tears can push against my eyelids, the ground beneath us suddenly begins to shake, jolting my focus back. The vibrations rattle the cottage windows, and my legs wobble at my knees. What's happening? I ask, eyes darting to the ground, then up to the sky. Greta grabs my arm, pulling me into a shop doorway where the window displays long sleeping caps of various sizes and striped, speckled pattern caps for children with unicorns and multicolored rainbows woven into the fabric. Others in simple muted grays with delicate embroidered stars and moons, like the ones Greta and Albert wear. While Greta and I are huddled in the doorway, Albert stays at the edge of the sidewalk, a hand shading his eyes as he gazes up the cobblestone street, as if waiting for something. A second passes. The clamoring, crushing sound grows louder, and then a sudden rush of white appears. It takes my eyes a moment to distinguish what's happening, to separate the blur of coiled white woolly fur clodding the streets. Sheep. I see 3 dozen at least thundering up the street toward the town center, hooves pounding against the cobblestones, hot air gusting from their nostrils. Dust swirls up from the street, and I squint my eyes, closed against the grit, listening to the rumble of their feet echo along the buildings, the crush of at least 100 sheep all pushed together until the last one of the herd races past and Greta releases my arm. I let out a breath, wiping at my eyes, and step back out into the sidewalk. They run amok when they're in Dreamtown, Albert remarks, scratching at the back of his head. A nuisance, really. Counting sheep only behave properly when they're in the human world. This herd is still in training. Tufts of white wool lie scattered across the street, dirty hoof prints on the cobblestones, and the air still has a thick, musty smell, like mothballs or a damp wood sweater left to dry on a clothesline. Up the street from where they came runs a girl in a nightgown, long black braids bouncing over her shoulders, holding a shepherd's staff, just like the guards at the front gate and in front of the Lullaby Library, except hers is meant to actually herd sheep. "Sorry, governors," she says as she passed by, tipping her head at them. "I promise, they're getting better." They both smile at the girl, an easy kindness in their eyes. "Just keep them out of the streets, will you?" Albert calls after her. She nods as she hurries after the stomping, snorting herd. When she's out of sight, I turn to face Greta. "How long have you been the governors of Dreamtown?" Her eyes seem to shimmer, a starry, half-caught in a daydream expression. "Nearly 100 years, she says gently. "We had hoped you would take over our role once we were too tired to carry on. But then you were gone, and—" Her voice trails away. and I try to imagine the hurt and grief they must have felt all those years ago. Suddenly childless, it must have been the worst kind of ache, a hole inside them that was impossible to fill. But Greta touches my hand, smiling softly, and we continue on up the street. They take me through a community garden where valerian and night jasmine are blossoming, wild and fragrant in neat little rows. Greta squeezes my hand, and I know this must be the garden of my childhood, where I tottered among the plants, learning the names of herbs and the best time to harvest rose petals, where I must have found my love for things that grow from the soil. Just beyond the garden, in a wood structure that I think is just a large potting shed or a greenhouse, but they tell me it's a research center. Where Dreamtown scientists study sleepwalkers, trying to sort out the best way to coax them back to their beds. In a fenced side yard next to the building, several pajama-wearing townspeople are walking around aimlessly, bumping into the low fence, trying to pick up imaginary objects, while two others hold clipboards, scribbling notes and tapping their chins. Everything in Dreamtown, it seems, is about the study or encouragement of sleep. We continue on, making our way back toward the town center. Then I hear the hoot of an owl that echoes long and lazy through the streets. Several residents walking nearby glance to their wrists, checking their timepieces. The clock owl marks every hour in Dreamtown, Albert replies. It's how we keep track of the time. It's a real owl? I ask. Of course. He's a white, snowy owl, and he perches atop the Lullaby Library, the tallest building in Dreamtown, to ensure he can be heard at the farthest ends of town. A man and woman walk past us, wool-knitted scarves wrapped around their necks, matching fuzzy slippers on their feet. Governors, they say, nodding at Greta and Albert with genial smiles. You're the only rag dolls I've seen in Dreamtown, I comment, seeing myself reflected back in the features of their faces, something I've never known until now. The seams of Albert's mouth lift into a half smile. There are a few others, rag dolls like us, and also several teddy bears and floppy-eared rabbits. They are all sleep weavers, but they spend most of their time in the human world, helping lull children to sleep. With so many time zones in the human world, there are always children sleeping somewhere, Greta explains. So we work around the clock, napping when we can. She looks at me again, like she's looking for the girl I used to be, or the girl I might have been if I had stayed in Dreamtown, grown up within its walls. I would already know these things, she explains to me now. I might have been in line to become the governor, but still, it's difficult for me to imagine any of it. To picture a life other than the one I've had. To imagine a life where I never would have met Jack. I clear my throat thinking of him asleep in our room, Zero nervously hovering by his side, keeping hidden out of sight while the Sandman moves through our town. I can't waste any more time. I need you to tell me about the Sandman, I say bluntly. What is he? How do I stop him? Greta smiles. Greta's smile fades from her eyes, her gaze skipping to Albert. Then she nods and pats my hand. We'll show you. She and Albert lead me down a darkened street without candlelight, shadows sunk into every corner, to a stone building set at the edge of town. It's a rather plain structure, gray walls and a gray roof, without windows or a sign announcing its purpose. What is it? I ask. This is our dream sand factory, Albert says, peering up at the two-story building. Greta keeps my hand in hers, like she won't let me go. Not for anything. Dream sand is made here. A proprietary blend of stardust, moonbeams, and a pinch of yawns from the yawning tree that grows just outside of town, beyond the peat bog. But you must be sure never to venture too close to the yawning tree without proper protection. Where? Albert interjects, lifting his stitched eyebrows. The pale blue pollen is very potent and can cause uncontrollable yawning. Just hearing him say the word yawn causes a series of large yawns to escape my mouth, unbidden, and I think of all the sand I saw in Halloween Town, even the other holidays, how it dusted the sleeping bodies of everyone I found. It was made here, in the factory in Dreamtown, and just like at the gate and the library, 2 guards are posted at the front door, both looking a tad sleepy. One of them even rubs at his eyes and leans against the long shepherd staff at his side. You have to guard the factory? I ask, my mind turning back to the feeling of dream sand when it touched my skin, when the Sandman sent a swirling cloud of it into our bedroom. How it dusted everything, caught in my hair and under my fingernails. Greta nods. We have to protect it. From who? My voice cracks, already knowing the answer. Greta and Albert exchange a quick look. The Sandman. Greta answers softly, keeping her voice low so no one on the street nearby will hear. I swallow and my pulse begins to race. The pieces started to link together. The front gate of the town had 2 guards out front too. Yes, Greta's eyes are cold, seams along her neck tugging impossibly tight. We only open the gate for a few hours every day, so our farmers can harvest the lavender crops. We keep it closed the rest of the time and locked. If I had arrived through the grove of trees at another time, when the gate was closed, I might still be out there, on the other side of the wall. You keep it closed because of the Sandman, I say, beginning to understand. You want to keep him out of town. We didn't have a wall in Halloween Town to protect ourselves. We didn't have, or even know, that we should be afraid of things that might slither through open doorways. The Sandman is in my town, I say, voice like glass, wanting to shatter. I need your help. Greta's mouth goes tight, breathing low, and she nods. Come, she says. It's time we take you to the library. The Lullaby Library casts a long, moonlit shadow over the town square, pale and watery. At the wide double doors, we step past the 2 guards and are enveloped by the echoey expanse of the library, a massive space that stands 3 floors high, with out with 4 winding staircases in each corner, with a walkway ringing the floors above us. Every wall is lined with bookshelves, and dozens of couches are scattered throughout the main floor. The entire library is lit purely by candlelight, giving it a shimmery, lost in a labyrinth of books quality. Jack would have loved this library. I can imagine him meandering the rows of books, long bony fingers touching the spines of each tome, eyes gleaming with fascination. I feel a pang at the thought, worried that if I can't find a way to wake him, he might never travel to another realm again. He'll never weave his fingers through mine and recite poems from long-lost books, or kiss me in the dark corner of a library like this one. Greta and Albert lead me across the main floor, where several writers are perched on couches, while others doze quietly with notebooks fanned open in their laps, inky pen marks on their fingertips. We reach the middle of the library, and I breathe in the heady scent of old paper. This is the heart of Dreamtown, Greta explains, her eyes skipping around the library. Our poets write hundreds of lullabies a year in this room, songs and stories and riddles to help children fall asleep. Your father even wrote the first lullaby, the first theory about daytime dreaming in this library. She smiles at Albert, a look of pride. He invented daydreams, you know, she says, looking back to me. A way for humans to dream up wild, unthinkable things right in the middle of the afternoon without ever needing to go to sleep. I think back to my own daydreams, moments when I'd managed to lose myself in thought, especially in my old life, dreaming of a future with Jack, dreaming of who I might be if I ever escaped Dr. Finkelstein. Albert's eyes crinkle at the corner, like he's embarrassed, and I try to picture him when he was younger. His now graying hair, once a dark brown, seems taut and smooth, hunched over a notebook, conjuring up new ideas for Dreamtown. The Sandman was humming lullabies in my town, I say, eyes wide, trying to lure me out. Greta's seamed mouth tightens into a grimace. We use lullabies to help children drift off to sleep, but the Sandman uses them for something else. She pulls in her bottom lip, like she knows at last she must tell me everything, but the words are bitter in her throat. Long ago, the Sandman was the king of our world, but he was not the kind, benevolent man that the folk tales would have you believe. She moves to a small table, stacked with old dusty books, touching the spine of one with her fingertips. The cover all black with no lettering on the front. At first, her eyes seem soft. The book unimportant, but then she begins thumbing through the pages until she finds the one she's looking for. She glances back at me, gesturing toward the book. When I peer over her shoulder, a chill slithers down my too tight seams, Sketched onto the open page is a roughly drawn image of a white-robed, gray-bearded man, the Sandman. Is it this who you saw in your town? Greta asks. A stiffness forms in my throat, but I nod. She closes the book quickly, letting her fabric palm linger on the cover. The Sandman was a stealer of dreams. She speaks softly now, so her voice won't carry across the rows of books. He would slip into the human world and put children to sleep so he could take their dreams. In the old times, children rarely had dreams because the Sandman stole them as soon as they drifted off to sleep. Albert shakes his head, a line of tension running down his jaw, his hands sunk into the pockets of his robe. He was cruel and greedy, and we had to increase production of dream sand just to keep up. He stole millions of dreams every night. Albert draws in a long breath, as though the words are hard to say. We worked night and day, double shifts, and we barely slept. The poets were forced to write lullabies until their fingers bled, until their eyes burned and turned swollen and red, and they could barely see by candlelight. It was a dark time in Dreamtown, Greta says, touching Albert's arm, a gentle, consoling gesture, her eyes soft at the corners. This lasted for centuries, until a group of us began talking in secret when the Sandman was away in the human world. We knew we had to stop him, Albert adds, a grit in his voice. Someone stands up at the far side of the library, stretches their arms over their head, then walks slowly toward the doors, footsteps echoing up the high walls of the library. Greta clears her throat, swallows, then starts again. One night, while the Sandman was in the human world, stealing dreams, we began building the wall. We chose to close the Dream Sand factory for the night. The writers stopped writing sonnets. The farmers came in from the fields, and we all worked together to build a tall stone fortress that encased the entire town. She brushes away a strand of long red hair, and I noticed a stray thread on her wrist, just like mine, a nervous habit we both share, and I wonder, has the loose thread grown more frayed over the years? The worry she felt on her missing daughter revealed in her unmended seams. Before the Sandman returned, we closed the gates, locking him out of Dreamtown. I feel the leaves in my chest stirring, imagining how frightening they must have been. We banished him to the woods, outside of town, she continues, exhaling, and that's where he stayed all these years. Someone a few tables away snores loudly, muttering in his sleep before another writer with curly ash-white hair and a moss-green cap elbows him in the shoulder, and the snoring man jerks awake, wiping at his eyes. Afterward, the town decided no more kings or queens, and our people elected your mother and me to be the official governors of Dreamtown. Albert's eyes straight up to the towering levels of books above us. The library, so tall, so expansive, it makes me dizzy each time I tilt my head upward. He's tried to break through the wall several times, hungry for dreams, but we've managed to keep him out all this time, doomed to wander the forest beyond town. Albert clears his throat, swallows, until the doorway into your world was open, and it gave him a way out, or rather, a way into somewhere else. I flinch, knowing that I was the one who opened the door, the guilt surfacing again. I remember when I first saw the Sandman, slinking through the shadows, checking those he'd already put to sleep, sweeping through every alley and dark corner of the town. In Halloween Town, the Sandman was floating, I say, bringing my focus back. He drifted up to our bedroom window and blew sand into our room. Couldn't he simply float over the wall? Greta picks at the loose thread at her wrist again, fidgeting. He can only drift up so high, 20 feet at most, before he's too weighted down from all the sand in his pockets. What about the farmers? I ask. Couldn't he put them to sleep and take their dreams when they're out in the fields? We are residents of Dreamtown, Albert says, speaking softly. We sleep, certainly. In fact, it's our favorite pastime, but dream sand doesn't work on us, so the Sandman cannot put us to sleep and steal our dreams. A jolt runs through me, remembering back to when I tried to wake Jack, when the Sandman blew a cloud of sand through the open window, coating the floor, my hair, and the hem of my dress, but I didn't fall asleep. I touched the sand and wiped it away, but felt no tug into slumber. I'd assumed I had just been lucky, or that it just hadn't been enough to knock me unconscious. But now I understand why. Now I see the truth. I am from Dreamtown. Dream sand has no effect on me because I was born within the borders of this town, of this world. I am a girl who was born, not made. Heat swarms behind my eyes, and all at once I know it's true. Greta and Albert are my parents, and I am their daughter. This is my home. I want to tumble forward into their arms, feel the relief of them against my cotton and linen fabric just like theirs. But my mind won't let me. It tugs back to Jack and Zero and the others. It's even worse than I thought. They aren't simply asleep, rather lost in a dark, dreamless nothing. The Sandman has ripped their dreams away and taken them for himself. They are in every way that matters dead. We have to stop him, I ask. I say quickly, leaves clawing up into my throat, the panic rushing over me now. It's no longer simply about saving the other holidays, or even Jack. We have to prevent the Sandman from venturing to the human world and putting everyone in every town and city and province to sleep. We have to stop him from stealing more dreams before everyone everywhere is asleep. The owl suddenly hoots again from atop the library, marking that another hour has passed. His cries echo through the tall chamber of the library 12 times, 12 hoots, before it falls quietly. It's noon, Greta says, as if she senses the slipping of time, the urgency of what must be done. Please, I say, we need to go to Halloween Town. We need to bring the Sandman back here, to Dreamtown, where he belongs. My mother lets out a deep breath. Mother. The word already feels easier in my mind, like it's been planted back where it belongs, fit perfectly into place. My father's eyes lower. I'm sorry, Sally, my mother says at last. Your father and I have already decided what needs to be done. What do you mean? The Sandman is in your world, in Halloween Town. This is our chance to keep him from ever coming back here. I shake my head at her. How? Her eyes glimmering with unshed tears, but when she speaks, her voice is firm and true. We're going to destroy our grove of trees. We're going to ensure he can't ever come back to Dreamtown again. Chapter 14. You can't, I shout. We're no longer in the library. My parents sense the fury rising inside me, the pitch of my voice climbing into my throat, and they quickly ushered me back to my childhood home, where others couldn't hear the grating edge in my voice, the anger and fear churning in my stomach. It's a sacrifice we must make, Greta, my mom says softly, standing a few paces from me. In the long sitting room, candles burning low, the air smelling of night jasmine, to keep the Sandman from returning to Dreamtown. Then we can finally tear down our wall. We won't have to guard the Dream Sand Factory, and we can go into the woods again, harvest our crops, all without fear. But you won't be fixing anything, I protest, feeling a well of tears gather against my soft cotton-lid eyes. Jack and all the others, everyone in the other holidays, will still be asleep. My father blows out a breath and paces to the fireplace, resting a fabric hand on the wood mantel. We have to protect the Dream Sand, he says, lifting his eyes to me. We have to keep the Sandman from ever returning and refilling his pockets. But there must be some way of stopping him, I say, the desperation hanging on each word, my voice rising, teetering like it's about to splinter apart. My gaze flashes to my mother, hoping she will agree with me, that she will offer some solution other than destroying the grove trees. The only way back to Halloween Town, back to Jack. But she shakes her head, eyes rimmed with sadness and regret. I wish there was, but there's nothing we can do. There's no way. There's no stopping him, only protecting what's left of our town, the Dream Sand, and those who are still awake. I'm sorry, Sally. I press my palm to my eyes, holding back the tears. We can't just cut ourselves off from the other worlds, I say, dropping my hands. We can't just leave them there, asleep. My mom is worrying her hands into knots, and I fear her seams might start to tug apart if she doesn't stop. There's no way to wake them. I'm sorry. Their dreams belong to the Sandman now. The throbbing at my temples is like a drum. I'm sorry, Sally, my father says, echoing Mom's words. I sink onto one of the soft, feathery couches and press my palms into my fabric knees. You opened a doorway into your world, Mom says now, and the Sandman fled. I'm sorry about what's happening to your town, but you've also saved us. Rid us of the monstrosity we've spent a century fearing. You saved us, Sally. She settles onto the couch beside me, her voice sinking low. So you see, we have to take this opportunity. We have to keep the Sandman from returning. My father drops his hand from the mantel and looks at me like a dad who knows he's breaking his daughter's heart. We don't have a choice, Sally, he agrees. The Sandman has left Dreamtown, and we have to keep him from coming back. A stiffness forms in my throat. This isn't how I thought it would go. When my parents first stood before me and told me who they were, I felt overcome with dizziness, with disbelief, but also something else. I was certain that they would know how to defeat the Sandman, that we could return to Halloween Town together, save Jack, and I would finally know happily ever after of my own story, trolling bells and kisses with Jack once he woke up. I didn't know it would actually mean crushed hope and growing fear and tears breaking against my cheeks. But Jack and the others, I can't leave them. My voice wavering each word with a blade. I know you care about them, my mother says now, patting my hand where it rests on my knee. Her touch like the petals of peonies, silken, tender to, a touch my skin remembers somehow. Hands that braided my hair into long, neat plaits down my back. Hands that wiped away tears when I tore through one of my seams on the spike of a garden fence. These memories are not clear and precise. They rest like gray clouds on a stormy day, only able to be seen partly before they evaporate. Halloween Town was never your home, she says gently, creeping closer to the truth. Dreamtown is your home. It always has been. My father nods, lifting his gaze from the fireplace. This is where you belong, my dear. You have been missing for so many years. My mother squeezes my hand, like she's afraid to let go. Afraid I'll slip from her grasp all over again. And we finally have you back. I know it's hard to lose the ones you care about in Halloween Town, but you are safe here. It'll be difficult at first, but I think you can be happy in Dreamtown, among your own people in a world where you are loved, where you truly belong. I was loved in Halloween Town, I counter, but even as I say it, I'm not entirely sure that's true. Jack loved me, of course, but the others, they hardly noticed me before I married Jack, and now, as queen, I am simply a title, a doll they must dress up and make into something new, shiny, and suitable and worthy. Still, I know they are trying to help me understand. They want this place to feel like home, but my heart is breaking. I can't let Jack go. My mother takes my face in her palms. We are your family. We have loved you long before you came here, long before you knew who you were, who we were. You are not an outsider in Dreamtown. You're home. This is your home. Her words rattle along every seam, a heavy, knowing, tiptoeing along my thoughts. Maybe she's right. Maybe I never should have lived a life in Halloween Town. It was the wrong life. And here, perhaps, I am who I was always meant to be. I feel dizzy, like my stuffing is spilling out of my seams, like I might faint. Nothing makes sense. I want to scream or cry, or sink onto the floor and let myself unravel until I am nothing more than a pile of threads and used up fabric squares. Mom takes my hand and leads me down the hall to my old childhood room. You just need to rest for a while, she says softly, sensing the whirling panic in me, the anger and the fear, and all of it too much. I want to resist, tell her that I won't sleep. I can't. But my head is blurred over with too many thoughts, and I crave the softness of the bed that used to be mine, the quietness of a house that has already begun to feel familiar, like a part of it was woven into my fabric, flesh all these years. I just didn't know it until now. I remember tiny hands along the walls skipping in new ballerina shoes, laughing, diving into my bed and nesting under the blankets. It was a good life here, wasn't it? Until Dr. Finkelstein stole it from me. I can't abandon Jack. I protest again when we reach my room, but even I can hear the weakness in my voice, as if I am a little girl all over again, as if there is no strength left in my chest. My mother sighs, mouth drawing into a tensely sewn line. In her face, I try to see myself, her large teacup eyes and long spider-leg lashes, the blue thread knitting her imperfect seams together. The more I watch her, the more I know I am a part of her, made of the same woven fabric. Just sleep for now, she says gently. When you wake, everything will feel clearer. I know she's right. My skin feels too tight, my thoughts darting back and forth like a bat trapped in a cavern. I need to rest. You'll wait to destroy the grove? I ask. She looks to the window across my bedroom, the dusky light making watery shapes through the curtain, then nods. I lie on the bed that used to be mine. The indentation in the mattress is much larger than I am now. My feet reaching the end of the bed frame, but still the sunken center of the mattress is comforting and safe in a way that makes tears prick against my eyes. The girl who used to sleep in this bed is no longer the girl I am now. She was taken, given a room inside an observatory, told that she was built instead of born, lied to. I wonder if my parents are right, and this is where I belong, this house, this town. Although my threads thump with the need to rest, I stare up at the ceiling and the mural of stars and constellation. I can't imagine a life without Jack. But if my father is right, and there's no other option, no way to wake the others, and no way to stop the Sandman, then maybe that life is dead, ripped away like cobwebs in a winter storm. Maybe they do need to destroy the grove of trees to keep what's left here safe. And maybe a life here in Dreamtown without Jack is better than no one at all. A sharp pain spikes through my chest, and I push myself up from the bed, walking to the window. The town is quiet, far fewer people strolling the sidewalk. Perhaps it's finally night, a time when the library closes its doors, and everyone collectively rests for a few hours. I try to imagine a life here in this realm, who I'd be if I'd never left. Maybe I would have fallen in love with a boy who writes lullabies, who spends his days in the library scribbling down sonnets. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad, I say quietly to myself. But anyone I might have met in this other life, anyone who eyed me from across a stack of books or held my hand, of plucked yellow daffodils from the community garden, then left them on my window sill for me to find in the morning, wouldn't be Jack. My heart could never love them in the same deep, dizzying way. It would never be enough. Coldness rises in my throat. That wretched, marrow-deep feeling when you lose the last of your hope. When the dark twists around your spine and leaves nothing else. Even if I went back to Halloween Town, there's nothing left, only shadows. No witch sisters or vampire brothers, no ghosts or wolfman or mummy boy. They might as well be dead, corpses left to rot in their nightmares. This life here in Dreamtown might be all that's left. I touched the empty jar resting on the windowsill, the place where Mom said I once kept all my angers and sads. I wonder if the jar is big enough to hold the mountain of hurt tucked inside me now, or if the glass would shatter if I tried. I don't have time for childish things, so I place the jar back on the sill, fingers trembling. Then I feel myself sink down to the bedroom floor, tears pushing against my eyelids, making prisms of my vision. I press my palms into my eyes and let myself sob. I allow the sorrow to bury me in its miserable, unbearable weight. I choke on it. I die on it. I feel myself lying on the floor of my bedroom. And I wish I wasn't there at all. I wish I had never fled Halloween Town and gone into the woods, tearing off my pumpkin queen dress and crow feather crown. I wish I had never found the door into Dreamtown. I wish I would have stayed with Jack, let the sisters pin their fabric into my flesh, and insist I wear the highest of heels. I would have felt trapped by it all, but not nearly as bone-breaking awful as I do now. I wish I could undo everything, because if this is the final page of my story, the last chapter, I don't think I can bear it. My eyes blink open, stinging from the salty tears, and I peer across the floor of my bedroom to where a stack of books has been placed under the bed frame. They aren't hidden, just shoved underneath the bed skirt, as though they were an afterthought. I imagine my younger self, tasked with cleaning my room hastily, pushing them out of sight. On the hands and knees, I crawl to the bed and pull out the books. There are other things under the bed too, a knitted doll wearing a crimson dress, the bow in her hair coated in dust, a wooden set of jacks, a fiber jump rope coming undone, and several spools of thread in varying shades of blue. Cerulean blue like the sea, sapphire blue like a shimmering stone, a teal blue like the sky after a summer storm. But it's the books that hold my attention, and I sink back onto the floor, wiping my tears from my cheeks. The titles are all unfamiliar, most of the spines broken, bent, wide from too much reading. They are books that have been read and reread, worn down fingerprints, smudges, and corners folded. There are books on dream making for insomniacs, sheep counting 101 encyclopedias on the methods of sleep, theories around daydreams and naps and sleepwalkers. I pull out a recipe book titled Sleep Tonics, filled with recipes for golden milk and warm butterscotch cocoa. There is a book on how to choose the correct pillow firmness for side sleepers and back sleepers and roly-poly tummy sleepers, and a do-it-yourself book on constructing your own mattress made of recycled fibers and sheep's wool. And lastly, there is a book titled The Basic of Slumber, Dreamtown Edition. This book has been read more than all the others. Every page dog-eared, whole paragraphs underlined. It's a manual, a basic guidebook for the residents of Dreamtown. I skimmed through the chapters of the mineral elements of dream sand, the importance of full moonlight during sleep, how to keep children from having bad dreams, and finally, how to lull even the most restless humans into slumber, those who prefer drinking coffee after 8 p.m. and staring at humming, flickering screens in bed. But my eyes linger on the final sentence of the book, the words cycling over and over in my mind. Everyone, everywhere, can achieve sleep. Some just need to be shown how. I lift my gaze to the window, the evening moonlight glinting against the curtain. Maybe I've been thinking about this all wrong. I say out loud, maybe there is a way to save Jack and all of the others, a way I haven't thought of until now, a way that now seems so obvious, so clear. It's been there all along, the knowledge already inside me. I push myself up from the floor, still holding the book in my hands, tears drying at the corners of my eyes, adrenaline pulsing through me. I have to find my parents. But when I rush to the bedroom door and try to turn the cold silver doorknob, it doesn't move. I try again. I wiggle the knob. I press my shoulder against the door, but it won't open. The door is locked. Chapter 15. Let me out, I yell. My soft fists bang against the wood door. Helpless, useless. Please, I shriek. But there are no footsteps down the hall, no rising voices coming to save me. The house feels empty, gone silent as a tomb, quiet as a cellar. I rush to the window and yank open the curtains wider. At first everything looks as it did a moment ago, but then I see them. My parents have left the house, my father's hand on the small of my mother's back, and they're walking down the front steps and out into the street, their robes clenched tight around them to keep out the chill. And in the dim twilight I notice several other residents leaving their homes as well, gathering with my parents in the street, huddled at first, speaking low, before nodding together in some agreement. All at once, I realize what's happening. I know where they're going. I slap my palm against the window. I shout through the glass, but they don't turn. They can't hear me. They're too far away, already moving up the street into the faint, watery twilight toward the gate at the far end of town. I drop my hand, knowing, and the knowing is a sharp stab of betrayal, straight into the corner of my already broken heart. They're going to the grove of trees. They're going to destroy the doorways. They lied when they said they'd wait. Keep your thoughts in your head where they belong. Dr. Finkelstein used to tell me he wanted a daughter who kept quiet, who did what she was told, silent and obedient. But I have never been those things, and I refuse to be that now. I run back to the door, yanking the knob, hoping to budge it free, but it doesn't give. Not even an inch. Trapped, trapped, trapped. My mind repeats, the walls sinking in around me. My parents have locked me in my childhood room, just like Dr. Finkelstein used to do. And now they're going to destroy the trees, my only way home, back to Jack and Zero, and everyone I know. They knew I'd try to stop them, so they tricked me. They lied. I press my ear to the door, listening. Maybe Edwin, the butler, is still in the house. I pound against the sturdy wood, calling out for him, but he doesn't come. Even if he can hear me, he's probably been instructed not to let me out. I hurry back to the window and try to slide it up in its frame, but it's stuck, rusted into place after too many years spent closed. All the years I was away, when no one lived in this room, never letting in the quiet evening air. Tears break from over my eyelids, dampening my cotton cheeks and clouding my vision. A deep churning fear swirls in my gut, leaves twisting themselves together like they're caught in a windstorm. I have to find a way out of here. I press my forehead to the glass, the panic like a fist in my throat. But through the blurred vision, I see the outline of someone approaching the front of the house. The boy, the one who brought me the note when I was slumped outside the library, the boy who led me here to the governor's house. I slam my palm against the window, yelling through the glass to get his attention, but he's already letting himself in through the front door. I run back to the bedroom door and shout against the wood. I beat my cotton fist so hard the stitches start to tear. Help, I yell. Let me out. I think I can make out the thread of soft slippers on the wood floor, and then seconds later I hear his small hello. The boy is standing on the other side of the door. Please, I say, please unlock the door. My face is pressed flat to the door, intent, listening, when suddenly it swings open and I stumble out into the hallway. How do you get stuck in there? The boy asks, words slurring against the gap in his front teeth. Hair moist, just like he's woken up from a nap. He locks me in there, I say, the breath heavy in my chest, glancing back at the open bedroom doorway. The boy's eyebrows screw together like he doesn't understand what I mean, and I straighten myself up and step back into the bedroom, retrieving the book I found under the bed and tucking it under my arm. Why are you here? I asked the boy, stepping back out into the hall and striding toward the front door. He pulls on his bottom lip as he quickens his step to keep pace with me. I run errands for the governors, and I came to tell them that the poets are asking for more candles in the library, and to, He scrapes a hand along his neck. There's a rumor going around that you're their daughter, the one who vanished all those moons ago. His eyes find mine. Is it true? I exhale through my nostrils, clenching at the back of my jaw. Yes, I tell him as we reach the front entryway, but I'm not staying. The boy follows me out through the front door, and a listless evening breeze coils around me, the air quiet and calm. Why not? He says, still standing in the doorway. Because I am the queen of Halloween Town, I answer, glancing back at him as I descend the stone steps in the streets, and I am going back home. I sprint through the town all the way to the gated wall, past the tall fields of lavender, and into the lulling, softly shadowed woods. Wait! I shout before I've even reached the grove of 7 trees, hoping it's not too late, hoping they will hear my frantic pleas echoing through the woods. My lungs are gusting with air, eyes flashing through the dark, until at last I can just make out the silhouettes of several people gathered inside the grove, some holding candles, illuminating the dim forest, while others are wielding axes, swinging them wide, before driving the blades against the hard wood with a loud crack that echoes through the far-reaching forest. The sound is like a knife in my ears. The leaves in my chest rattle. With each inhale, I climb the hill toward the grove. The lost needles in my stomach jab and poke. Please, 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 my head screams. But a half-second later, I hear the loud crash, the sound of a tree hitting the grove and splintering apart, the vibration shaking the path beneath me. No, 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 please stop, I yell. Please, I sprint up the last rise, reaching the edge of the grove, and at last see the full width of the trees in trembling candlelight. And too late, minutes too late, moments too late, a whole lifetime too late. The grove is gone, gone. Every tree has been severed at its base, chopped clean, and now all 7 trees lie on their sides, toppled over like soldiers slain. No! I run to the tree with the golden pumpkin carved into its bark and drop to my knees, clawing at the door, heaving it open. But when I peer inside, I find only an empty darkness of an ordinary hollowed-out tree, pale, soft wood, and a small beetle skittering away from the candlelight. No threads shown, no threshold that will take me back to Jack, no doorway, no passage to another realm. It's gone. A hand touches my shoulder, but I jerk away from it. My mom is standing over me. You said you'd wait, I snarled up at her. Through the knotted pain in my chest, my father steps forward. His seamed mouth turned downward at the corners. We're sorry, Sally. We had to do it. No, I reply. I want to push myself up, but my legs feel too weak. All the strength I felt when I fled my room now gone. You could have waited. You could have told me the truth instead of locking me in my room. My mother exhales, tugging on the sleeves of her robes, mouth sunk flat. We didn't want you to leave us again, she admits, eyes trembling like she might cry, like she too might collapse beside me. We couldn't bear it if you decided to go back. My eyes flash to her. So you destroyed the trees, my only way back home, trapping me here. Each word feels like cracked glass, shredding me open. snapping each thread one by one, without letting me decide for myself. The seams tighten across my mother's forehead, and I can see the panic in her eyes, the fear of losing me again. It was wrong of us, she says, so softly the words nearly drown in her throat. But we had to make sure the Sandman wouldn't come back. We couldn't waste any more time. I pushed myself up from the falling tree, skin trembling, every part of me feeling cut through. They lied to me, hurt me, took away everything. I have lost Jack for good, and I want to scream. I have lost Jack for good, and I want to scream. The hurt bulging behind my eyes. I want to tell them that I hate them, that I'll never forgive them, but all the fury sits planted at the back of my teeth, aching a vile, wretched feeling. Instead, I hold out the book for Mom to see. I found a way to stop the Sandman, I say bluntly, coldness rooted in my eyes. My father squints over my mother's shoulder, while the others in the group raise their candle toward the book, curious. How? My father asks. Stitched eyebrows pulled together. When I found Jack and the others asleep, I tried to make a potion to wake them up. My voice is so thin it feels like paper, but it didn't work. I stare at the faces of my parents, wanting them to see anger in my eyes, to know what they've done. But I made the wrong potion for the wrong purpose. I swallow, waiting for some hint, recognition in their eyes, but their features remain slack, motionless. What purpose? Mom asks. My eyes slide to the book in my hands. The Basic of Slumber, Dream Tone Edition. While flipping through its pages, I realized I had been thinking about the Sandman all wrong. I had tried to make a potion to waken those the Sandman had put to sleep, but instead, I needed to think about it like a rag doll, one who was born and raised in Dreamtown, who would have spent her nights in the library studying the fundamentals of sleep, a girl who would have read this book over and over until she knew it by heart. I didn't need a potion to wake everyone up, I say, breathing, glancing to the fallen trees. I needed a potion to put the Sandman to sleep. There is a long, silent pause, wind shushing through the trees, candles throwing light across the ground, until finally my father speaks. But dream sand doesn't work on the Sandman. We can't put him to sleep. I shake my head. I wouldn't use dream sand. My voice is still deep, cutting, because I know it's too late now. I would have made it using herbs that I grew in Halloween Town. They're stronger than anything you have here, more toxic. They can raise the dead and put them to sleep too. But how would you know how to make such a thing? My father asks. I lift my eyes to him. I've made many dangerous sleeping potions before, but I don't tell him about the noxious soups I used to make for Dr. Finkelstein. All the mornings I would slip poison into his frog breath tea, knocking him unconscious, long enough that I could escape the lab and go in search for Jack. The hurt expands inside me like rotting flesh, and I'd do anything to go back there now, to see Jack again. My mother takes the book from me and runs her palms across the cover. You think you can put the Sandman to sleep? She raises an eyebrow. I don't know if putting the Sandman to sleep will wake the others. I don't know if it will break the deep slumber he casts onto them, but at least it will stop him, and I have to try. But my father interjects before I can say any of this. The trees are destroyed. There's no way for her to get back to her world, even if she wanted to. My mother ignores him, keeping her eyes on me. Sally, if you could reach your town, do you think you'd be able to stop the Sandman? I swallow and push my shoulders back. I would try. My mother glances back at my father, some silent thing passing between them. The human world. My mother says at last, you can reach Halloween Town by going through the human world. I feel my dark pupils narrow on her. The stirring in my stomach falls still. I've never been to the human world, the place Jack visits every autumn on Halloween night, slipping through graveyards and cemeteries and mausoleums. It's how he moves back and forth between our realms and the mortal one. But I haven't seen a cemetery in Dreamtown, not even a single headstone. How do you get to the human world? I ask. Mom lowers the book, meeting my gaze. We'll show you. The lullaby library is quiet, and after hours kind of silent. No one curled on the love seats writing riddles. Everyone's gone home for the night to rest their eyes and minds. Yet we walk in silence down the center of the library, my mind still burning at the thought of what they did, destroying the grove, trying to trap me here for good. It feels as deceitful as Dr. Finkelstein, locking me in my room, making me a prisoner. You're a treacherous, willful girl, he would say. But is it willful to want freedom? To choose your own way? To risk everything to save the ones you love? My parents led me up a set of metal spiral stairs, and at the second floor we climb up another spiral stairway, then another, until we're perched on the third floor, the highest part of the library. We move along the walkway beside tall, endless stacks of books, but the titles are unreadable in the dim light, only a few candles still burning on the shelves to light our way. Finally, at the back of the library, we come to a door made of dark cherry wood, with an ornate spiral of nighttime stars etched into the front and darkened as if the wood has been burnt by flame. This is our way into the human world, Mom whispers, speaking softly, even though there is no one else inside the library. But if you leave, she adds, we will still. She swallows a heavy darkness in her eyes, then picks at the thread on her wrist. We have to make sure the Sandman doesn't return. We have to destroy this doorway too. Close off any chance of him getting back in. I breathe, and the library seems to expand, walls stretching outward, while my thoughts close in around me. But if you destroy this door, you'll be closed off from everything, I say. Your dream sand, all the lullabies, you won't even be able to help anyone fall asleep anymore. We don't have a choice, my father says, repeating his words from the grove. I draw in a deep, unsteady breath, and in their eyes I can see how desperately they don't want me to leave. How they'd do almost anything to keep me here, to make me stay, even lie. But I can't stay. I'll sacrifice everything, even this town that was once my home, if it means I might be able to go save Jack. See him again, feel his hands against my linen skin, I'm returning to my world, knowing I'll likely never see my parents again. Tears form in my father's eyes, his mouth trembling. I know Dreamtown might be where I belong, I say, wanting my parents to understand why I have to see this through. Why, there's no turning back now. But it will never feel like home without Jack. I have to try to save him, all of them. Even though they have lied to me, hurt me, my heart still feels like it's breaking all over again. I don't want to leave my parents behind. Not now that I've finally found them. He would do the same for me, I say, my voice cracking on the words, mouth trembling. My mom tugs me into her arms, wet tears and fabric skin made of the same linen and thread. A patchwork pattern that makes us the same, and I let myself cry. For so long, we never knew what happened to you, she whispers against my cheek. We worried every day, but finding you now, I realize you are braver than I ever imagined you might be. Her words rupture into a sob, then she takes a ragged breath. I don't want to lose you again, but I know you need to fight to save the ones you love, and there's nothing more worthy than that. Thank you, Mom. I say the word out loud for the first time, tears shedding down my face in rivers now. My father folds his arms around us both, and I feel a flicker of doubt, small, imperceptible, but there, just the same, stabbing at me. Am I wrong to leave? I have finally found my family, and now I'm leaving them to go back to the place I might not be able to save. If I can't make a potion strong enough to put the Sandman to sleep, if I can't stop him, if I can't wake the others, then what? I'll be trapped in Halloween Town all alone, with no way to return to Dreamtown where it's safe. I will spend the rest of my life hiding from the Sandman. But this brief, thumbnail-sized thought is quickly replaced by a larger one, the one that overtakes all of it. I was born in Dreamtown, but I am also the Pumpkin Queen. I will fight for Jack. I will fight to set things right. I pull myself away from my parents' arms, then step forward and open the wood doorway, a strange cold hiss wrapping itself around me. The interior dark and shadowed, no light at all. When you step inside, my mother instructs from behind, you will be taken to a library in the human world. Which library? Whichever one you want, my father says behind me. Think of a town or a place as you step over the threshold, and the doorway will open up into the library there. My head pounds as the names of towns, cities, locations in the human world skip through my mind. All the places Jack has described visiting on Halloween night, but how will I choose just one? I'll have to find a cemetery. I tell them, that's how I'll get back to Halloween Town. Try to think of a smaller town then, Mom offers, so you won't have to search as far. I nod and take a deep breath, looking back at my parents, both still crying, arms folded around each other. I found them, but now I'm leaving them behind, and I'll never see them again after this moment, this last goodbye. The burden of what I'm about to do feels almost unbearable, but I hold open the door and suck in a breath. I smile at my parents one last time, wanting to say something, one last thing, but I can't find the right words, good enough words. My head and heart are a treacherous, traitorous mess, both wanting different things, both colliding inside me and making it impossible to speak, so I don't. I love them, somehow, these two people who I've just met. Fabric scraps and long red hair. We're the same, but I have to go. I have to let them go. I peer into the dark of the doorway, knowing that once I've passed through to the other side, my parents will destroy this door, break it apart, maybe even burn it until there is only ash, until there is no magic left inside. I close my eyes, count to 3, then step through the doorway. And that is the end of chapter 15. Tune in next time, and we will see where Sally ends up, and if she can make it to Halloween Town, or will she be stuck in the human world. Please don't forget to hit that like button and that subscribe if you haven't already. This is Ruby, signing off.